This is Disclosure Now, a show where we expose the truths that are nefariously hidden from humanity. On today's show, Arkim Ra and Brian Zeng spoke with Drago Reid about his connections to secret space programs as well as his work helping people recover memories through quantum hypnosis healing.
Okay, welcome to Disclosure Now with Arkim Ra and Brian Singh. Today we have a very special guest that we've been wanting to have on the show for a minute. We have Drago Reid. Welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to have you, Drago.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time coming. We've been talking about just having some cool shows and having a bunch of cool topics, and like we can all three talk together about all kinds of stuff, man. Like it's who knows where this is going to go.
I feel like we had a synchronicity moment though, where like I saw that post of that like thing that you're talking about. You made like a costume and you're talking about the Anunnaki and Marvel and how it's all connected and stuff like that. Me and Brian both saw that and we're like, oh, this is badass. Like, and basically we decided that's such a great thing to center this whole conversation around. It's like, because to me, the history of the Anunnaki is so important, and it's something that I hear a million different people talk about it, and there's all these different narratives. And frankly, I trust that you have investigated this and looked into this a lot when you say that you have. And another thing is just how it connects to Marvel and everything like that, because that's been something that more and more people have been talking about, is that like it's really just based on like assets in the secret space programs or in like black ops clandestine programs and stuff like that. Just in an artistic way or what have you, but yeah, so we're just gonna get right into it. If you'd like to, you could also just give maybe like a brief introduction of yourself to the people watching the show who maybe don't know who you are yet, and maybe just to give them a brief idea of who you are.
Brief idea, I guess I would start 2005. I had a traumatic brain injury, and my legal diagnosis is traumatic brain injury, post-amnesic disorder with retrograde amnesia. I broke like 11 bones, all kinds of stuff. But that kind of started my awakening to really deep dive into consciousness, because it woke me up in a way that it's hard to really explain. It's just like you wake up one day and then the colors are different. The images are, I wouldn't say the images are different, but it's like you're seeing for the first time. And before that, I've always had these connections to the Greys. They've always been in my life since I was a kid. And I had an activation around, I think I was around 23 years old. Me and a friend were hanging out and we seen a craft in the sky. And that moment activated me and it put me on this pursuit. And I was already into like the ufology stuff and like the Anunnaki stuff. I was studying the Anunnaki stuff over 20 years ago. Fast forward, I figure out that through QHHT regression, because I'm a level 2 Dolores Cannon quantum healing hypnosis technique we call QHHT, which is basically regressive hypnosis. I can take almost anyone around the planet, put you under, and it shows you a past life, a future life, parallel timeline. It can take you to your childhood. It can recover blocked memories, screen memories. It can help me with my amnesia. I have legal permanent amnesia. I'm missing most of my memories from around birth to age 13. I don't think I have more than 20 memories. And I've had to go down the rabbit hole quite literally and do these sessions on myself to figure out what actually happened, because I've always been a loner my whole life. I was always alone, and I was alone for a reason. I remember around 6 years old, I started feeling like a soldier. And a kid that's 6 years old that goes outside and pretends to, puts on fatigues and like tries to use his father's Vietnam clothes and then puts himself in the woods looking for a target at 6 years old, that doesn't make sense. So grow up a little bit more. That's some of the memories I do remember. I think by age 14, I was studying Japanese Aikido. I was reading the Book of Five Rings, The Art of War, reading Lao Tzu, Sun Tzu, Confucius, getting into Marcus Aurelius, like military doctrine for a young kid. That's kind of weird to be that age. And keep in mind, this is 1994. There's no internet. The only place to find information is a library. in your local school library is not going to have these books. I had to just find these books. But the more I went down that Japanese rabbit hole, the more I would have these memories of doing things and fighting battles. And it's almost like it's a daydream. You'll just be in life doing things, and then something hits you, and it's emotional. And it's not like, you know, when you daydream and you create something, it's not like that. It's like when it hits you and you remember, it can make you cry immediately. It's almost like this download. It's like a bitch slap to the face that automatically affects you. So fast forward again, I have another accident. I total my Honda S2000, and my head and my elbow goes through the window during that crash. Some freaking guy was reversing into traffic in a 1980 something C4, C10 truck, reversing into traffic to get to the other side. I've never seen that happen. So he hits me. I remember the moment I get hit, I start seeing in slow motion, just like everybody says during an accident. You start seeing in slow motion. Out of body experience, trauma, you start seeing in slow motion. The problem is the slow motion never turned off. So imagine that I have the ability to see over 200 frames per second at any given time. So the average human sees about 24 frames per second on average. That's why with most movies, they frame it at 24 frames a second. 60 frames a second is more like fast-paced action, like the movie Crank. After about 60, you go a little bit more than that. It starts becoming very blurry because the reticular activation of the system of the brain, which mine was damaged. I damaged the parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and the reticular activation system. So what that did is, since I do quantum healing hypnosis, putting people under, I can read people like crazy. I can read people across the screen. I can see the change in mannerisms, the breathing patterns. I can see something. I can see how you react immediately. And like, you can't turn it off. It's almost like kind of like having the powers of the Flash. But what it did is that brain damage and that knock on my head, I think it rearranged my neurons because I process information lightning fast. And it's pretty cool, man. But all the memories I've recovered so far, I figured out that I'm a secret space program Black Ops experiencer and a MyLab abductee since I was a kid. I found out that my main abduction when I was around 6, I thought it was Grays. Apparently it was the screen military. It was the freaking military. The screen memory, it was the military. I've had a lot of alien gray abductions as well. So I'm connected to Project Serpo in that aspect. And I've been with them together in the grays, in the dumps for a long time. A lot of these SS people I put under to verify their story or to debunk them. We found out that they remember me from the dumbs, and they were literally shown the past with me in it. So at that point, I started to step forward. I started asking people to remote view me, show me, tell me what happens. You're a remote viewer, remote view it. I'm gonna ask this remote viewer to do it as well. We're gonna contrast and see what's true. That led me into a 3-month mission to get in touch with Peter the Insider and Jessica Morocco, the ACIO. After about 3 months, I finally talked to Peter. The moment I get on screen, he starts freaking out. And not only does he know me, we've run on numerous ops together, including Jessica. And we end up talking, I don't know, maybe 15 hours over 3 weeks. Every single Monday, we would talk for hours. And this is where I'm at now. I'm at this journey, kind of uncovering all this, trying to unpack all this data, and trying to recover more memories. And I'm here now.
Well, we're so glad to have you here with us. Thank you.
It's kind of hard to sum everything up just like that, you know,
I
just
think
like,
you did an amazing job for, I mean, obviously it's probably not going to cover, you know, every stone unturned, but um it, I think that was an amazing introduction to who you are. And yeah, Brian, do you have anything to add to that? Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, so Drago, you're able to basically pinpoint and get past that screen memory that the military gave you. So now it's like a my labs thing, military abduction here to be taken into one of their special access programs, right? Um, from that point at 6, can you describe that process? Was it you know, your parents, one of them was already in the military or had certain connections, or you know that you took some kind of test and you scored highly. What was it that got their attention on you at 6 years old, do you think?
I come from a military family. My dad was in Vietnam. Both of my brothers have been in the military for over 20 years, and one's about to retire. 20 and I think 20 and 30 years plus. So I come from a military family. I went to actually join the Marines in 2005 and scored a 96 on my ASVAB, and they said I can have any job I want. And I said I wanted to fly helicopters. I wanted to rescue people because my dad was a trunk monkey in Vietnam. You know, he was the guy, he was the gunner, protecting everybody to get on that helicopter. And I remember the recruiter, he said, you know, that's a very low probability life job, like meaning that the rate of them being killed is extremely high. And I told him I don't care. I said, what matters to me is I save lives. And if I die doing that, that's a good death. And we check my vision, we do all that. And he basically tells me that I can't fly helicopters. And the best thing I can do is test fly them as a mechanic. And the job they offered me was, they wanted me to do, what's the job where you're analyzing data, an analyst for like classified intelligence and stuff like that. And I thought about my life 10 years from that point. I imagine myself sitting at a desk, no action, no real connections, no making brotherhood like you're used to, because I'm going to define hell for you real quick. Take a 6-year-old kid, inject that kid with Zeta DNA, activate that kid's abilities, put that kid in the soldier program, traumatize that kid to death, kill him over and over and over again, to the point where you don't even know who you are. Then you get older, then you get put in these adult programs. Imagine going to space, taking part in space battles. And then they remove all these memories of you doing all these things. And then they put you in this civilian life where ultimately your life means nothing. You work 50 hours a week, you can barely get by, and you have to pretend you're a regular person at all times, no matter where you are. And you can't turn it off. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. If you was to remote view my mind, I am a soldier. There's not a single part of me that's not. I am always thinking tactically. I am always expecting opponents. When I walk, the only time you see me is if I allow you to see me. And I cannot turn that off.
And then, so from that point that you're 6 years old, do you know what projects that they may have inducted you into, and then what that process was like? It sounds like you're describing a bit of that, but kind of more, can you walk us through that from A to Z, from what you've been able to piece together, you know, through all the work that you've done?
Peter the Insider says that I'm part of a group from Monarch called Merge, which is the Monarch Umbrella Refugee Group. It's a set of kids that were basically tortured to the max, and they basically broke their programming and turned on their handlers. And apparently I'm one of those groups of kids, and they pre-identified me before I got here because apparently I made an agreement to be in Monarch and to be in these trauma-based mind control programs in order to bring this awareness to the public. And I made an agreement to basically push it to the max with the amount of death I've incurred, how many times I've died, what I remember from just being tortured and cut up and just physically be abused. It's all I've ever known, man. It's affected every relationship I've ever had. Peter said I was part of, I think it was Project Serpo. He also says that I'm part of Kruger, and more than likely I'm part of Nachtwaffen. I don't know how many people that remember me that's on Nachtwaffen, they remember me. So I am really connected to Penny Bradley, and we've talked a lot, and like we think we have a past life together as Draco. She was a princess and I was an Alpha Draco general, and I was one of the only Dracos that incarnated that was not full blood, and that was part of an agreement between me and an Arcturian. This was uncovered through all my past life regression. And in real life, my friend that's the Arcturian in this life, he actually works for DARPA. He's a MyLab. This guy has a ton of patents for DARPA. This is a major guy behind the scenes, and we were both shown these connections. But the whole when they abduct you, man, like I just remember just being cut open and implanted on. I remember I think it was 8 months old, I had my first surgery. They brought me in and they cut open my back, and apparently they put an implant in. And apparently the implant went bad. They had to go back in. I think it was 3 or 4 months later. So I'm an infant. And I had 2 major surgeries. So I still have all the scars from that. So, like I said, they pre-identified me for this. But one of the things they pre-identified me with, Arkeem, you said you do time ops, Project Looking Glass. I'm involved in a lot of the portal ops. What Peter told me is that I'm designing a lot of these portals for like Diego Garcia and different places on Mars and different stuff, because I can apparently make natural organic portals. And the Grace tortured me to do this. And when I didn't, they would just kill me and torture me again. Ileana or Elka, she actually did some remote viewing for me. And she's seen a lot of that stuff. She's seen the portal stuff big time, and she's seen a lot where basically I'm being used now because they say they're using me to go in these deep underground military bases to bust holes to take out these pedophiles and to rescue kids. So that's some of the ops that he says I'm doing currently. And Jessica said right now it's extremely dangerous because a lot of the unit was almost compromised, and what's going on right now, man, it's very convoluted.
What do you mean by that?
Let's take the Mandela effect. There's all these timelines running, and they're trying to control the time stream so much that they don't understand that the timeline is sentient. It has its own consciousness, and the timeline does not like to be changed. It has consequences when you do that. A lot of these time ops, they think they're going back in time and changing this timeline. They're only creating another timeline. You know what I'm saying? For a lot of these things. And this is why I'm about to start my own show on the 15th. I'm about to launch my new show, Portal to Another Dimension. And I was told about the portals around 5 years ago when I first started QHHT. I started having these clients I'd put under, and when I'm talking to the higher self, they're mentioning me inventing all this portal tech. And I'm like, how the heck would I, in the Rockefeller, Rothschild, Anunnaki-controlled planet, get past the patent office to release a portal? And I've known about the portal stuff my whole life. And it's all energetic. It's just like mudras and creation. It's beautiful how it's made, man. And we found out that the reason I don't sleep, I only sleep about 1 to 3 hours a night if I'm lucky. I have extreme pain in my body. I broke a lot of bones, and that pain never goes away. I almost lost my left leg from the knee down. I had bones break out of my body, and I tried to get up and walk it off. I hit a wall doing 120 miles an hour on my motorcycle, and that's how I hit my head, broke all the bones. So that was an interesting journey. That was my second out of body experience. So in my physical body, in this outside of the program, so like who knows how many times I've been taken out of my body. Like Archeum, like you can't even put a number on something like that, because it's just like even your memories, like you always discover new memories with new triggers and new traumas, and then you get activated and you're like it's endless. It's almost like, how is it possible? Until you realize, did they put me in a 20 and back? Did they put me in a 60 and back? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of assets are coming back. Like Arkeem, how old are you?
I'm 32.
How many total 20 and backs or whatever 60 and backs have you had?
I would guess probably, and at least 500, maybe 1,000, maybe more. Like
So do you realize that you have the consciousness and awareness of a 1,000-year-old being? And that's why when we meet these other SS people, there's a power behind legit experiencers. When you look them in the eyes, a lot of times you know if they're bullshit. They try to play it. You know what I'm saying? You cannot fake that. It's always in the eyes, always. And since I can read people, man, I can see those micro expressions, asking questions, the way I shake somebody's hand. That's another experiencer, man. Like, it tells me a lot, like clear cognizant wise, transfer of like thoughts and stuff like that. When I had my head, I got all these freaking abilities. And when it happened, I didn't know what to do because I didn't have insurance. There's no real mechanism to like figure out what's going on. Like when I had that crash, I was extremely dyslexic and OCD. And I was OCD for like a year where I would like touch the doorknob multiple times. I think I would leave my iron on. I would have to drive back home to make sure I turned off my iron. Like, it was freaking insanity. But I realized I developed this skill because apparently when we did my neuropsych evaluation for the S2000 crash to figure out what happened, because I had a lot of brain fog, and I went straight to the hospital. They did a CAT scan on my brain and full body x-rays, and we found I had all these breaks all over my body that I don't remember having. So I don't know where they came from. And I was shocked because I know what was broke during my bike crash, but to see all these other breaks and the radiologist be like, how many times have you had these crashes, you know, like, and you see them, it's shocking.
No, then I know I've been taking notes since you've been giving your testimony here, Drago. My question then is, if they're, you got in this motorcycle accident and you got in this car accident, and then they're scanning your body, and then they're finding other breaks that you don't think are related to either of those accidents or anything else that you can recall. That means that then they're taking you sometimes in your current physical body that you're in now, as opposed to, say, consciousness transfer, sticking you in a clone body, which can get all messed up and mangled, and then they put your consciousness back in the body you're in now, and you're none the worse for wear, and you certainly don't have any new broken bones. So that would then imply that there are times where you're taken for missions or whatever in that your current physical body, and then have been injured, and then perhaps have been patched up somehow.
They're doing both. Peter even confirmed that they're literally taking me mostly through TR3Bs. And it's happened so many times that I know the patent number for the TR3B, US 2006014501981. And it's amazing. Like, the TR3B is, I would consider it antiquated tech. Like, that's a very old gen TR. You know what I'm saying? But for some reason they keep using them. And I found out that they're mainly taking me to US SOCOM, the United States Special Operations Command, right here in Tampa. And that is the hub for all the divisions of the military, United States Army, military, and Air Force, and Space Force, not too far from my house. When I asked Ileana about it when she was remote viewing, she can only tell me it was classified. She would not tell me anything else. I even asked her behind the scenes, and she responded with, "It's classified." I'm just like, man, these guys. And then they'll take my consciousness. I found out the reason I don't sleep is because I have around 5 to 7 different clone bodies. I have a berserker body. I have different age bodies for different stuff with different DNA in each clone. And they have all my clones housed together in one base. And they said that doing that is short-circuiting it all and causing it physiological reactions into my body. The pain I'm feeling is a physiological reaction of taking my consciousness and housing it so close to all these other bodies.
Well, to plug Tampa, Florida there, the three of us are scheduled to be at our Timeline of Disclosure conference that we're co-organizing with James Rink and others coming up in July, and to coordinate with a day of being there at a nearby beach there in the Tampa area. Meanwhile, I've also pulled up on the ACIO official org website you know, a lot of these groups are literally brought up and mentioned in video games and movies, as we all know, and this is a form of disclosure, if you will. And so we want to kind of refer to Peter and Jessica's and others' website here, and as kind of a reference point as well for the viewers out there.
That's actually very important because a lot of people has jacked Peter and Jessica's information. A lot of books that have been written is their information. A lot of SSP timelines in history was directly found by Peter the Insider. And a lot of books were written based on his information, but he rarely ever gets real credit. So anytime I discover something, I will always say, this came from Peter. He's seen these files. He says, I have tons of files. He said, there's so many files, it's nuts. And we were all three. He was watching some of the feed from the DUMBs and some of the stuff I was involved with, and he couldn't process what he was watching. And we're going to be releasing these recordings. It's hours and hours of recordings. It's pretty awesome information, and I haven't really talked about any of it to nobody. Any of the details, I haven't mentioned nothing yet.
Now, Drago, do you have any insight into how Peter has access to these files? And then, you know, does that, and any insight into that?
Okay, so what the ACIO is called, the Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization. And it was started by Dr. Neruda as part of the Labyrinth group. His public... I don't want to give too much classified information. It was ran by A.R. Borden. And there's a guy named Michael Lee Hill I was telling you about bringing him on as a possible speaker. He's one of the confirmed incarnations of Enki. Like, legitly. And that dude is some power. What was I talking about before that? I'm going to give a little caveat real quick. Part of my brain damage, if I start talking about information, I'm going to load some subjects and I forget what I was talking about. So just remind me and I'll just continue. What question did you ask me?
You know, we were talking about Peter the Insider, and so because
so A.R. Borden is the director of the ACIO, which is the Labyrinth group. The Labyrinth group is 2 levels deeper than the NSA. It is a special access project that is involved with Operation Looking Glass and the chronovisors and all kinds of stuff, a lot of time offs. And Peter the Insider works out of a deep underground military base called Pine Gap in Australia. Whenever we talk on video behind the scenes, it's always broadcasting from Australia every time. Peter does not show his face. He's never shown his face ever for OPSEC reasons. But Peter is the 12th division director. There's only 15 levels of the ACIO, and Jessica, I think, she's level 6, and she's basically she's his main hub of information to put a lot of this content out.
Now, this is something that maybe I know I'm curious about, and maybe our team and our viewers. Pine Gap, you know, everything up to now that I've ever heard about Pine Gap has been very sinister, as in it's kind of under the control of the cabal, or, you know, dark forces, if you will. To then have Peter there and in open contact with us, or, you know, via folks like you and Jessica in the world, is that to say then that Pine Gap is now under more of a white hat or neutral jurisdiction as opposed to dark forces?
I would say I have compartmentalized information. I don't know if it's the full truth. Who has the full truth? You understand? I mean, that's what compartmentalization is. So, crap, what did you just ask me before that?
Since Peter is in contact with you, and he's ostensibly by
Yes, the Sinister programs. Yeah, Pine Gap is known for a lot of the nasty shit. All
Right.
MK Ultra stuff, hybridization, DNA stuff. They operate on different ET bodies. They operate hubs for Mars Colony Corporation there, where they'll send different body parts out, reverse engineering tech, all kinds of nasty stuff. It's very nasty stuff that happens at Pine Gap. But Peter was authorized from the White Hats to release information, and he will not be killed over this. Most of us, when we talk, a lot of us get killed. I don't know how many friends of mine have been murdered year by year. Arkeem, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been in this field long enough. You've seen some of the most major people in the world commit suicide. 2 gunshots to the head. They drown themselves in their bathtub. Come on, man. Like, it's rampant. They don't want these answers coming out. And I believe we're at the precipice, and like something happened behind the scenes. Some primer some primer happened. There was a catalyst, and I believe there was a shift. But like what's happening in America, there's 2 different sides. The bad guys of America, they don't want to lose their control. The good guys want to uncover all this. We just had the Epstein list just get released. We all 3 knew who was on that list. We've known since Q dropped all that stuff, and I think it was October 2017. And people's like, Q is a psyop. Okay, cool. Why are all the names that are being unsealed, why do they all match the original list damn near verbatim? And it's also expanded, but almost everyone on that list that was named 7 years ago already. It's been 7 years, man. Not a single arrest. But think about this. We've had the most celebrity deaths in the last 10 years. The most suicides of celebrities, the most uncovering of crimes. Me Too campaign since Trump. All the perverts were outed. Ricky Gervais outed them publicly at the award show. That was freaking amazing. And no one's seen that coming. So I believe there's been a shift. And I believe even Ricky Gervais was allowed to say those things because they didn't cut. They allowed him to keep going the entire time. And I believe that was one of the major moments where they said, hey, we know what's going on. Watch out for Ronan Farrow.
That was a really great, I don't know, of all the comedic openings for an Academy Awards or whatever, that was absolutely, obviously the best. And since, you know, just like you're saying with compartmentalization and at sinister spots, like Pine Gap, and maybe there might be a changing of the guard, you know, like you also mentioned earlier that you were perhaps at night or however with time travel, it doesn't matter, running missions to then help like clear out the dumbs. And then can you elaborate on some of those missions, and maybe was there like a changeover? Oh, that started happening around, you know, what year did that start happening from versus the sinister stuff?
Well, just understand, most of us in the SSP blackout programs, we don't do a lot of good stuff. A lot of these SSP soldiers, they sing this hero story where they're all saving kids. They're all coming in with like the white horse and the white hat. And then you figure out a lot of these guys behind the scenes, they're psychotic. They're the worst of the worst. They're the rapists. They're the ones that raped everyone in the programs. And they're still doing it behind the scenes in this life. And they're pretending that they're empathic now. They're pretending that they healed from this stuff. And the information's coming out over time, especially a lot of claims about who killed certain people. There's been a lot of claims made about who killed certain people. I don't want to call that out right now, but information's been released lately that certain claims were a lie. And that's pretty bold to just to say certain things and you killed a certain person with a certain set of people. But all this stuff needs to be outed, man, because there's a lot of fraudsters. And Arkeem, you see them all the time. It takes a while to figure them out, but like it feels like we're building this radar where we can detect these people. But the ones I watch out for are the forum people. Like they basically do what Corey Goode did. They basically were in the forums for 10 years before they even went public. You know, like Corey did with Carrie Cassidy and Project Camelot. He was in the forums and the deep forums for a very long time before he actually came out. And once you figure out who these people are behind the scenes, man, you're like, damn, I was sold a bill of goods. I loved Cosmic Disclosure, man. I found out more about myself in that show by them talking about these programs than I ever have in my life. And I believe Cosmic Disclosure was a double-edged sword. You're going to get cut no matter what way, but it was necessary. Look what it started, man. that was a catalyst to a movement that needed to happen, because at that point, before that, there were only there was whistleblowers, but there was no big thing since really Max Spears. You know what I'm saying? Like Max Spears was the last big major insider for this, right? Tony Rodriguez is becoming the biggest now. I think he's like one of the most famous super soldiers right now. So that's awesome that we're gonna have him at the timeline of disclosure, man. That's gonna be really awesome. He's gonna be keynoting.
Did you guys dial
Yes.
that in?
What'd you say?
You guys dialed that in?
Yeah, Tony has said that he wants to make sure that he's back from the conference that he's going to be at in France to make it back in time for our conference, and then we're going to schedule it so he's on the last of the 4 days as the top headliner for that day.
Perfect. That's awesome. Good news.
Hope I didn't speak any insider secret too soon.
No, not at all. And speaking of other super soldiers, there some of them in the I don't know if I want to say that the fakers or the mix of people who are the real, but they're kind of also wrecking at the same time. The other people have talked about being in the programs and being put in these battle situations where it's not glamorous hunting down indigenous raptor people or ant people, raptors and ant people on Mars, for example.
Just in general, it's a lot of it's just being colonizers, like kind of like it's kind of like the like Native Americans talk about it here, how they came, the Europeans came over and stole their land. It's kind of like the same thing, very similar, like Nachtwaffen especially, like they just expand their empire as far as possible, and they don't really care who if someone gets in their way, they're just gonna get them out of their way at whatever necessary way that however they need to. And a lot of it's just colonization and just military, just gaining military power, just gaining power, gaining more and more power and more resources, and it never ends. And that's what a lot of it is. And so you can only imagine. I mean, look at like how Drago and I have both been exploited by these time corporations. Well, when they show up to these planets to exploit them, they're not treated any better either. It's just a mess all over. And I don't like the things that I've been forced to do. And no, I'm not a hero, and I have done horrible things, and I have hurt people and done terrible things to people, especially Montauk. And that's something that I have to live with. It's something that I just try to be realistic about and hopefully help other people with, because I do know that they didn't program us to be Mr. Rogers in these programs. They program us to be weapons of mass destruction. And I'm still healing from it. A lot of the stuff you're talking about, Drago, I know exactly what you're talking about. Just really strange things that I've never been able to explain, where now they make sense. Like I can walk into a room and it's not always consciously, but sometimes it will be consciously. I instantly know what in that room I could use as a weapon and kill someone with if I had to. Like
It's awesome to bring that up. It's awesome because you cannot turn it off, right? That's the first thing I do when I meet a new person I'm gonna put under with hypnosis, and they say they're in a government program. I come prepared no matter what. But the first thing that I do when I walk into a hotel room, I look for blunt trauma weapons. Anything I can use if I activate an altar or someone tries to attack me out of nowhere, I know every part of it.
Mhm.
And that's really awesome, man, because like having that situational awareness, man, and never turning it off, it protects you in ways that no one will understand. It's that save yourself mechanism. And you can't, you're not born with that stuff, man, unless you're bringing in incarnational information from other lives, and that was part of the agreement, and you needed to know that at a young age in order to bring it to your adulthood. But like, you're the first person who's ever mentioned that I've ever talked to, and I'm writing about that in my book in extreme detail. Like, I'm really good with
I just
time.
thought it was fucked up. Like growing up, like I'm like, man, I must be a real psycho if I'm like, why am I thinking about this? And I'll admit it's not, I think I'm always doing it, but it's not always like on a conscious level. But when it is, it's always like for me, it's just like sometimes it's jarring. You know what I mean? It's like because it's one thing if you're in a situation where you think you need that resource and you think you might have to whoop some ass, right? But when you're just in a normal situation and you're doing that stuff, it's kind of like, what
Yeah.
I mean?
It,
You
it,
don't really want to be thinking about that at the time, but you are like,
exactly, because like even when we met every time I meet a new male, I always look for weaknesses on their body. I look for a limp. I look for a bum shoulder. I look how they walk differently, no matter who you are, and I can't turn it off. I do it to people I work with all the time. I just look at them and I fantasize how I can like break the inside of their knee if I have to. And I practice martial arts 7 days a week. I cannot turn that off. I've been a martial artist for almost 30 solid years. I got into combat aikido at the age of 15 with all that Japanese stuff, and I've studied at least 7 different styles. And it rolls me. Right now I'm focusing on boxing because I realize being a lifelong martial artist, they don't teach the art of knockouts with martial arts. They don't teach the science of how to knock out a human skeletal frame. And I'm learning that in boxing. So that's why I got into like mixed martial arts, because I realized a lot of the styles I trained with were all stand-up styles. And what I learned from UFC, watching that since I think 1995, 1994, I realized that I needed to work on my ground game. And the more I worked on that, the more it activated my memories of doing parkour. And I started doing parkour all the time. I started like climbing buildings, and like I would feel exhilarated, and like I knew the mechanics of timing with no training whatsoever. It's just like, where's all this parkour stuff coming from? And I would do it in front of everybody. Every time I found a cool kind of walkway or like a hallway where I can climb it up, I just climb up the hallway with my legs. Get in almost anywhere. And I figured out, once I found out the Kruger connections that were taught in parkour. And I was just like, oh my God. But you asked me what my first memory was. Really, it was the abduction. And the second memory was 10 years old. I was living in a trailer park in Mansfield, Texas. And every day I would come home, I would see these bullies. It was a group around 5 or 6 kids, other people from the trailer park, and they would always give me crap about cutting through the field to get to the trailer park. And they said, this is our field, we own it. Because, a gang of kids, they think they own the area. Well, this time they came at me, and I remember running. I remember running to the trailer park, zigzagging in and out of trailers. And suddenly I see this big pile of bricks to my left, white trailer, stairs directly next to it, plastic covering it. And at that moment, I had this scene flash that was very emotional, where I seen other kids bullying me in the programs, and my learning moment was to take down the biggest one, to no longer have the fear. That moment, something shifted in me. I looked at the brick, I stopped and realized no matter how much I run, they're going to catch me and beat my little ass. 5 or 6 kids, right? I picked that brick up, I turned to face the bully, I beat him in the face with it, knock him to the ground. I then take that brick, I hit him again in the face. I throw that brick on the ground, I start stomping his chest. I do this to the biggest one. At that point, all the kids stopped. That was the last time they bullied me. But what I discovered at that moment, it activated a fear in me that I didn't even know I had. Almost like the first trigger of trauma and PTSD, and you don't know where it came from. And it just hits you all at once. And then from that point on, you're not the same anymore. You know?
So in that moment, Drago, and it triggered that memory of you being um, tormented by other kids, but in programs. Okay, what was after you kind of had your Ender's Game moment, literally you're beating down the bullies that to so bad that they don't want to mess with you anymore. Then did you kind of process like, whoa, what was that flashback of me getting messed with by other little kids? Like, where was that? Did you have any consciousness of that at that age? I mean, because given you were 10 years old.
I remember at that time in school when I was processing all that, I remember we still had corporal punishment, the paddle, the wood paddle, where the principal would spank your little ass. And I remember at that point, I kind of started acting out because when you have this information download where you start seeing adults traumatize you and beat you and laugh at you, it's not something a child's ever experienced. Like you only have the gauge how your parents treated you at that point. And if they were abusive, then you actually know what adults are capable of. But to not know what adults are capable of and then to start having all this kind of unload on you, I was the little fat kid. Actually, you know what? I wasn't even fat yet. I actually think I had like a little six pack, but I was always bullied. I think I gained the weight after around 13 when I lost all those memories. So something happened where I started protecting myself, and we found out with QHHT hypnosis that an excessive amount of weight is a form of security and protection. Imagine a 25-year-old supermodel. When I see really attractive females, I pity them because the most beautiful women, they're abused by men their whole life. No matter how smart they are, they will only see the physicalness of that woman, and they will treat her as an object her whole life, so she will never be taken seriously. That sucks. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
can understand.
it doesn't have to be that way. Us men can strive to be better and encourage other men to be better, and try to create an environment where, you know, women are looked at as people as they should be, which I think is sort of happening in the world. You know, it was kind of like you know, like the Me Too movement. You know, it's like Courtney Brown said it best, kind of, and he talked about it where he said he had like the concern of how there's gonna be he's gonna be taken advantage of, and they're gonna be men that get screwed over that weren't really actually damaging women. But if that's what it needs to end, is, you know, thousands of years of women being, you know, just treated like total garbage, then I mean it's a small price to pay. Like I think we're seeing the beginning of maybe like a change in that. At least I sure hope so.
Well,
You
I
got
wanted
real
to,
life? Go
yeah,
ahead.
John.
I can finish it. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question on that theme of being better people, better men. Um, this is one of my favorite kind of questions or topics is, okay, now you look at Kruger these days or Nachtwaffen these days, are they having any Me Too moments, if you will, up there in space, or any reform at all? Where I've heard other people saying that Nachtwaffen, they're kind of on the outs and unpopular, and they're regarded as losers, and they're kind of being pushed out into the fringes, or no, they're fully operational and they're as mean as ever. Can you give us some status on
I
them?
would go towards the second one myself, but Drago, go ahead.
Mhm.
What specifically you're asking about the people in the
Well,
groups with
knocked knocked off, and I think he's asking like, do they have any reform happening, or like how
Okay, so
are like
you got to realize the standard operation procedure for all military is trauma-based mind control. That's what SEER training is. That's what boot camp is. You go through trauma-based mind control. If you do not comply, you get physical pain over and over until you comply. That's why when soldiers come out after they're deployed, they can't function as a normal person. They do what they were programmed to do, and they cannot turn it off because they went through that trauma in order to do that. Like, Fritz Springmeier wrote a book. He's one of the Illuminati deprogrammers, and a lot of his techniques that he wrote about, that's what kind of put me down this rabbit hole with Monarch and like all these groups, because I started realizing a lot of these techniques and deprogramming codes he was talking about actually work on people in the programs. So at that point, it kind of changed my focus with QHHT. I started attracting all the super soldiers and going down that rabbit hole and verifying all this stuff, man. It's next level to be not only an experiencer in the program, but you can directly use a technique that's not bastardized. What I mean by that is Dolores Cannon created one of the original techniques to do this past life regression. And all these other techniques, they're damn near clones of her technique. They call it a different name, they change words, but almost the whole thing is Dolores Cannon's technique. And it's crazy how anybody can just take technique, change a couple of the ways it works, and say, hey, this is my technique. So QHHT, it gives pure results. A lot of these other kind of hypnosis techniques, they're really splotchy with what they actually bring, because with QHHT, I activate your third eye. If you've never had a QHHT session, neither of you have one, right?
No.
I kind of sort of had one, and she used a Vogel crystal, and that was the one kind of thing when she started holding up to the screen, I thought I saw maybe colors with my eyes closed, like purple appear. But I'm one of those people where I consider myself to be hard, if not impossible, to hypnotize. So I'd like to know if you run into any people like that, and then what do you do in the hard to hypnotize cases as a practitioner for QHHT?
Out of over 500 people, there's been 3 people that I haven't been able to put under. I just found number 3 2 days ago. Woman came in and we figured out, James Ring's talked to her, Matthew Mornian's talked to her. A lot of major people have seen her in person. They said, this woman is major. She's from Poland. When you see her, she's either a queen, she's something. She had a lot of her memories removed, and I am very successful with putting people under, even the ones that don't think they can, because I go beyond the techniques that most QHHT people use. And it's all QHHT stuff. But the way I do it, I use multiple scenarios of the same technique, different techniques. And the way that I'm so successful is, most times when you try to put someone under and you're unsuccessful, there's this time of processing. They open up their eyes, they feel like a failure. They're like, what did I do wrong? Is it me? Is it possible to be hypnotized? I don't allow that. Before they even process that, I tell them to close their eyes. I go into the next technique. And one of the major techniques I use, it gets people almost every freaking time. And when your third eye activates, you've ever had the most realistic dream you've ever had in your life, and nothing compared to what you went through in that dream. That's what QHHT is. Anybody doing this stuff over the internet, that's a bastardized version of QHHT. We are not allowed to do anything over the internet because we keep the technique pure. When you come see me, Brian, Arkim, I am very thorough with my background interview. I'm looking you in the eyes. I'm asking you questions, and I'm seeing how you're reacting, how you're responding to questions, what you're not telling me. You know what I'm saying? And it's very personal when you can look someone in the eyes and you can tell your story versus like you're disconnected on the internet. More than likely, your hypnosis practitioner is probably in their shorts wearing flip-flops. You know, it's a really weird kind of disconnected feeling where you can't relate to it. And then that can cause that disconnection. You need to feel the emotions. You need to connect with the person in front of you. And I am known for my regressions. Matthew Mornian, he came to my house and I did a 5-hour regression on him. When I say 5-hour regression, I mean he was under for 5 solid hours. And what we found out was freaking amazing. Didn't you guys just recently do a show with him?
Yeah, so I'd say we had a great
recommended you for QHHT and brought you up and kind of put you in our consciousness and in our radar once again. You were already in our radar, but yeah, it's good to have you on the show, and it was great to have him on the show as well. And yeah, he totally testified to the fact that you're doing some powerful stuff over there in Florida.
Yeah, man, like we found out, Matthew wasn't aware, but he's in the programs as well. And he's been to the deep underground military bases as well. And guess what? That 5-hour regression, you know what his higher self chose to show him? Him and the dumbs with me. Us going through the programs as children. Now imagine other major show hosts coming to get a session from me. or other major SSP people. I put them under, they get shown a life where we're together and we're doing ops together. It's to the point where it's all I'm seeing now. You know, I just had a super soldier named Ann Hayes. Amazing woman, powerful soldier. You guys should talk to her. She has a very unique story. She remembers me from the dumbs as well. And it's just like everybody's remembering me from the dumbs. And we figured out that I'm in these different programs and they have me in so many different kinds of places in existences that it's short-circuiting my body. And there's not a single day where I feel I'm fully awake. It feels like electrically, there's hardly any electricity coming through my body because I am so tired.
And speaking of projects, you mentioned during your bio Project Serpo, and maybe our viewers are familiar with Project Serpo from kind of like it was the inspiration to some extent for Close Encounters, and it's where they took 10 U.S. military people, and they took them far to, it's a friendly, benevolent gray, but they're not like the same as Gray's Planet, or is this a different project?
Publicly, it was friendly, but they're not friendly, man.
Even
This whole narrative where they say these grays are positive beings and they're here to liberate us and stuff.
I've never even heard that before. Even the Serpo stuff that I've heard, they were like seemed nice at first, but then they like were really weird with DNA and stuff like that, and they didn't understand like people's sovereignty and the people that
They also don't understand our emotions. That's what Serpo was. They took humans in order to understand us. They took us to their planet Serpo, and we had to learn from them while they learned from us. And they gave me Zeta DNA. So I've always been connected to the Zeta Grays because of my Zeta DNA, and it gave me a bunch of abilities. So if you meet me in person, you can see I walk with a certain power. Like when I walk through a crowd, people observe me and they move in the crowd. There's something physiologically and electrically happening in my holographic field, and it's freaking amazing. People call me an ET all the time. They're like, "You're reptilian." I always reptilian.
Now you say yourself there, Drago, that they're not friendly. That project Project Serpo is not like a friendly, benevolent thing.
And their food tastes like shit.
Oof. And then now if they're hybridizing you, right, with their DNA, is that because then their desire is to replace basically humanity with hybrids of themselves, hybridized with us, and basically themselves?
You have to have DNA of a completing being in order to interact with a lot of these beings. Let's say you interact with the Draco and you're human. More than likely, that Draco's energetic field will short circuit your electrical system and kill you. You have to be a hybrid. Almost all SSP people are hybrids. They modify our cellular DNA in order to be in these different atmospheres and environments. MK Ultra, they condition us and drown us all the time, but you know what that does? It conditions you to breathe in the regen tanks. Because if they didn't drown you over and over, you would freaking freak out. I remember the first time I scuba dived, I had a triggering moment of being drowned. Because I technically, my first out-of-body experience, I drowned. Probably 13 years old, Guadalupe River.
What's weird is a lot of us have I've been discovering that a great deal, and I know that you're from the South, but I found in my case people from the Midwest, but a lot of us have weird near-death drowning experiences when we were kids. I had one, and lots of other people I know, and I also have this weird memory that is not. It's like when I look at it, it's like looking through a fog glass, and I don't know how to explain it other than like I'll be doing something, like I'll be hanging out playing music or something like that, and it will come to me, and I'll see it for a moment, and I got this memory of like spaceships showing up at the pool when I was a kid, and like people like wondering what's going on, and then reptilians coming down, like Draco coming down and like snatching up all these kids, and like through portals and stuff like this, and And it's a weird memory I have, and I wonder if it's connected to the drowning near death thing or not, or I don't know. I have no idea what connection that is or what that is, but I've just noticed that a lot of us have near death drowning experiences. So I just figured I'd point that out, so that way maybe you could, I don't know, just keep that on your mind, and maybe you'll run into it more and notice it more too yourself.
Did you notice a lot of people that's out of these a lot of these out of body experiences, they have more psionic abilities. They're more telepathic, they're more psychic. I believe it's almost like a Matrix cheat code, you know? Like right now, I feel like I'm in Morpheus with this red chair behind me. I told you guys about it earlier. And it's just like one of those, dang it, I was talking about the freaking Morpheus chair. What were we talking about again? I just lost it.
We were
Well, just
talking.
people with psionic abilities that are unlocked because they've had near-death experiences and the like.
Yeah, so most of all of it, like we were talking about like the Marvel series and all this stuff and how it kind of ties in. They tell you about the Super Soldier program. The thing that activated me the most was watching X-Men with Wolverine. I've always loved Wolverine my whole life. I've been connected to Wolverine since I was a child. This is why I have Wolverine slits tattooed on my hand, because that's like my berserker. Like when that comes out, it's like freaking watching Logan in the Logan movie, man. Like it is. It's kind of like you hear James Rink. He has his berserker kind of like that dude. Phew, you wouldn't want to mess with that altar with James, man. Like that's some hardcore stuff. But like it shows how Wolverine was part of Operation Paperclip. And it was the Nazi scientists that were torturing him in that Canadian base, in that dump. And they were injecting all the stuff in him, and it activated a DNA power in him, that healing ability. So you see a lot of these kids are putting in everything now. Stranger Things are telling you about the MK Ultra program. It was episode 3 that I actually say it's MK Ultra. Both of the cops are in the little library. They're looking at the microfiche, and it says Papa is part of MK Ultra. And guess what? Papa is the name of the lead programmer. That was one of the main names of Dr. Green, Dr. Joseph Mengele.
Yeah, they give you a mother and father figure in these programs.
Yeah, and like what they do to kids is insane, man. Like they'll take most of us and they'll love bomb us for the first year and a half, and then a year and a half later they're raping you. Or they'll do it in vitro. They'll torture you while you're in the womb, man. They'll start beating the mother's stomach and start sending needles in different places and like all kinds of nasty stuff to really to start that compartmentalization early, to start that trauma, to create alters, because they probably already identified that person through genetics to disassociate. So like when they identified me, that's what they did. They took me, and I've never had a choice with anything. You know, they told me originally, they told the little kid, you're going to be joining this program. You're going to be doing a lot of good. You're going to be helping other people,
Oh
other
yeah.
kids. You're going to be rescuing. You're going to be doing this. And then the trauma starts. And I'm one of the non-lucky ones. I'm a Gen 6. So that means I went through the MK Ultra stuff. Typically Gen 7s, they went through 3GR stuff, which is more like you guys know about 3GR, right?
No, can you please explain that?
Do you guys ever watch the series Fringe?
Yes, I have, but it's been a while.
So the moment I saw 3GR technology, it freaked me out because they put it in French. And this is a very old series, and it's within season 1. There's an episode where an asset seduced a target in a way where they're on the side of the road, country town kind of thing, has his hood open. They knew that person would stop at that time. Guy walks up, he activates the 3GR. You see 3 green flashes and 1 red flash. What they didn't show was the audible tone that goes with 3GR. The moment that it flashed, when he looked at the engine, he goes in a hypnagogic state and he's ready for programming. That's what they're using now. They started using a lot of more VR stuff. So a lot of kids do VR, and a lot of kids do the literal environment, meaning that we're literally doing these things and it's not VR. But like a lot of the VR stuff, it's mandatory. That's how they train you. They put you in these scenarios and it teaches you how to not get killed, because you get killed 100 times. That makes you pretty damn smart, and you know how to not get killed in a lot of situations. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know, Arkeem, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, when you walk in a room, you cannot turn it off. You just look for objects just in case. You know how to disable a lamp or use a certain cord. Like, for Christ's sake, like, for kids to think about that way growing up, that's really weird. And to never stop thinking about it, that's a weird life, man.
Now you mentioned James Rink, our good friend, earlier, and his altars and how you wouldn't want to mess with him in one of his Berserker Rage altars. Do you have any recollection, or if you recovered any memories or done QHHT work to have any recall of you being with James in any of these programs, Drago?
Nothing officially, but we did get to spend time at Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, and we ended up taking another super soldier to the Botanical Gardens. And we had a supernatural event happen. It freaked everybody out in our group. We go to the Botanical Gardens. At the time, I did not know that there's a major dome directly under the Botanical Gardens. I found that out through Jessica Morocco with the ACIO. I didn't know that at that point.
Botanical Gardens?
Orlando.
Orlando Botanical Gardens. Okay.
And that's where we kept seeing the TR3Bs. Everybody keeps posting these photos of all the three TR3Bs and videos. Multiple people are recording the TR3Bs directly above the hotel. They're not even cloaking. The first year, I saw a decloaked TR3B above the Ferris wheel in front of everybody. I'm at a stoplight with a friend in my seat. I see a freaking TR3B for the first time decloaked in public. I'm like, you know, when you see a movie where you see something in the sky and you look, have your head out the window, and then the people next to you is like, what's that guy looking at? And it was, I swear to God, it was going like 1 mile an hour, slowly in a circle around the freaking Ferris wheel. So they were openly showing themselves at every single GSIC event, openly in the sky. Everybody was seeing it. So, like, there's a shift that happened, man. It's never been so overt in my life. I've never seen so much of it in my life. You know?
So do you have any predictions then? Now that do we just hit the beginning of 2024 here, Drago, in terms of our favorite topic on the show, right, Arkeem? Full disclosure now, exposure now. Where are we in that process, would you say, for what you know and your...
I predict 2024 to be one of the hardest years we've ever had in our life, because this is year 4 of the Biden regime. In the last 3 years, I have watched the United States crumble. Inflation will not stop rising. There's no middle class anymore. No one can afford their rent anymore. I've seen everyone around me switch jobs, switch houses, and everybody's getting in debt. Everybody, even people that have money that are friends of mine, no one's spending money. And we have 1 more year of this. And Courtney Brown, actually, he remote viewed who wins. And he says that it's going to cause riots. So it would be cool if Courtney actually says at the timeline of disclosure what he actually saw, because I believe that depending on who's elected, you might see the Second American Revolution. And I have a chapter in my book called The Second American Revolution, because everything that happened at the Capitol, we're now showing with this 40,000 hours that was released. It wasn't an insurrection. We were all lied to. Every time they've tried to prosecute Trump, every single time Trump beat him. How? If he was really that bad and corrupt, you don't think the deep state would have the videos and the evidence, all the stuff from the WikiLeaks and the Vault 7 drops and all that stuff? You don't think they would have posted all that evidence already? Come on, man. Like, think about that. Like, don't forget that Trump is bloodline Illuminati. The Trump family is a bloodline of John Planchette, King John of England. All presidents except one are connected to King John. And that's the Rothschild Rockefellers. Rothschilds is the paternal line of the family of the Farnese family. The Rockefellers is the maternal line of the same family. That's why they both created the Council on Foreign Relations, Bank of International Settlements. They're part of the IMF. They control everything. They control the World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum is nothing compared to the hierarchy of what is really going on. And like the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, they say that their lineage goes all the way back to Egypt to King Nimrod. King Nimrod is Anunnaki. So we find out that the only president that wasn't part of the Illuminati, part of the Anunnaki Illuminati, think about this connection. Only one president, Martin Van Buren, he had Dutch blood. The only reason he was let in the bloodline because he married in. He brought something to the table. But usually nobody of impure blood's allowed. And they are the original Rh negative bloodline of the Anunnaki. So we were talking about the Marvel universe, the X-Men universe. They're basically showing you in the Marvel universe that, let's talk about the Thor kind of stuff. It's showing you that their planet is basically Nibiru, but they changed all the details. In the series, it's this beautiful planet, crystal everything. In real life, it's a red planet. Volcanoes erupting, covering the atmosphere. They went through this nuclear kind of war of kingship between each other. And basically it was the North against the South. Quite literally, what's happening now, the North against the South. It's like almost as above, so below. So you had all these battles happening on Nibiru of the kingship, law of succession, the law of seed. And it caused all these battles. But the Anunnaki story is really nothing in contrast to what happened in the Orion Wars. What happened when the Draco originally came into this universe and invaded Lyra, started killing all the Lyrans, and then we all had to scatter to Pleiades, to Sirius, to Mars, go to all these different places. And because of those wars, we had a couple planets explode. The planet between Mars and Jupiter was Maldek, aka Tiamat. That exploded. Part of these stupid kingship wars. And then the asteroid belt is a result of that.
Yeah,
And
I've been there before.
it's amazing. Like, Ceres is there, right directly in the center of the asteroid belt. A lot of people don't know that Ceres is there. And you got to realize Mars and Ceres was a moon of that planet. And when that planet exploded, it knocked out the atmosphere of Ceres and Mars, mass killing people. That was never part of the original contracts of incarnation. They did not agree to that as a soul level. So at that point, when everyone died, all these souls that had contracts, they're not allowed to go back to source. They have to go back to fulfill these contracts. So we ended up mass incarnating on Earth, and Earth was a part of that exploded planet. That's why the Anunnaki call it Tiamat. That's the veins, the blood, the waters of Tiamat. That's literally how it's described. Everything comes from Tiamat with the Anunnaki story. You have the story started with Queen Tiamat, and then she has a mate named Apsu. They combine energies and they create a being called Mumu, which is like their vizier. They three combine energies and you get Lamu and Lahamu, the male and female. Then you get Anshar and Kishar. King Alalu, the one that took over Nibiru, and basically was the first Anunnaki being to come to planet Earth. In fact, he was the first one that actually went past the hammer bracelet. That's what the Anunnaki called the asteroid belt. Up to that point, they were not capable of passing the asteroid belt. They never even seen the Earth, because every time they tried, it would blow up all their ships. Now, what happened with the reason why the Anunnaki came to this planet is because they were going through this world nuclear war, and it caused mass sterilization of their entire species. Their plants were dying, their waters were getting poisoned, and it opened up this atmosphere, and they realized a hole in the atmosphere. So basically, these solar flares are coming in, it's affecting everything, and they realize we have to fix our atmosphere. All of our nuclear wars caused all this to happen, but they didn't call it nuclear weapons, they called it weapons of terror. That's what the Sumerian tablets refer to it as. These are nuclear weapons. They used it in 2024 BC at the Sinai Peninsula. Enki ordered Marduk to basically blow up a bunch of spaceports, fighting with his brother Enlil, which is basically Thor. And Loki is Enki. Enki is always depicted with horns in all the Sumerian tablets. So is his brother. Matter of fact, the amount of horns you're depicted with shows the level of your rank. Most people never talk about that. It's just like there's all these depictions of a pill or it looks like a bag. If you truly study the Sumerian tablets, you realize it's not either of those, and people are just talking, they're just speculating because they've never read the Sumerian tablets. Whenever you see that bucket, that is a pail of living water, which means that depiction is a emissary of the faction of Enki, part of the Enkites. You have the Enlilites, and that's where the elite come from, the House of El. Superman, he's from the House of El. They're showing you the story of the Anunnaki. When the movie Man of Steel, when it starts, it shows Nibiru. It shows their planets going through nuclear war. It's exploding. They've got to now send their one seed to save everything, which is like a symbol of what Alalu did, King Alalu. And his name is Kal-El, Kal of the House of El. His father's name is Jor of the House of El. All the archangels, angel, all that stuff is derived from the Anunnaki. All of it. Let's take Angel Gabriel. You got to realize, let's take Gabri. That's the propaganda position of the archangels. Meaning, Gabriel was the one that started the three world main religions. He helped with Christianity, but he was also sent to Prophet Muhammad. He started Islam. And a Christian angel was sent to start the antithesis of a religion that would then war eternally against each other. And the name of that God was Allah. That's one of the descendants of the Anunnaki. More kingship battles. It's the same family fighting over each other. So basically, you have canon law, Christian law, then you have Sharia law, Islamic law. They are not compatible. They will never be compatible. So Angel Gabriel started, he forced Muhammad, an illiterate, to read and write and to record all of his diktats by force. He had to learn all this. He also appeared as Marconi to, I forgot the name of the guy that started Mormonism. It was Angel Gabriel that gave him the information to start Mormonism. So there's all these religions started by a handful of gods, lowercase g. And they're showing it to you, all of it. Let's get back to the Marvel universe. They're showing that they're going through these wars with these different beings, and the brothers are from different mothers. Their father's the same, which is Odin. That would be King Anu. King Anu's father's name is An, known as the Heavenly One. So Anu, his name is literally translated to heaven. So when people say that Anunnaki is a term for basically all extraterrestrial, simply because it says from heaven they came to earth, pretty much, right? Bullshit. Heaven is a name of Anu. It's showing that we are the direct seed of heaven. It's not just saying when we go to heaven, going to space. That's literally what they were called. That's what he was depicted as. So no one really talks about that. But it's in the Sumerian tablets.
You mentioned series earlier, and that's where Tony Rodriguez, he writes about being at that colony, being basically enslaved in some of his programs in his book series Colony Cavalier.
Yeah, great book. He was one of our guests, one of our episodes, maybe 5 episodes ago, with me and Laura Eisenhower. So for anyone that doesn't know, me and Laura Eisenhower have a show called The Rebel Collective. really no holds barred, interview super cool people like you guys do. And it's just like a forum where we're not getting censored anymore. You know, me and Laura lost a lot when we were banned on YouTube, man.
So
Like
now
she
you're on Rumble, the Rebel Collective here on Rumble.
Can I
it's
ask you, Drago, what was their excuse for banning you?
okay, so I was pushed. Okay, this was around 2016, 2017 when they banned me on YouTube. Since then, I've had a private account of only watching videos. Now, what got me banned was I was posting videos of my clients under with QHHT, then interviewing them directly after about their involvement in these programs. Since I was broadcasting actual stuff that was happening and the level of detail and what was actually named was so crazy that I didn't get a warning. I didn't get 3 strikes. I got a message that says I violated their terms of service and I tried to appeal it. They wouldn't listen to nothing. I lost everything.
Wow.
Laura lost 120,000 subscribers on her second and last final YouTube account. So I'm going to attempt. I'm starting my show, Portal to Another Dimension, on the 15th. She's going to be my first guest. I'm going to attempt to piggyback it on YouTube for the first time. I was banned in 2016, 2017. I'm coming back to see if they're going to allow it because simply tagging her name is going to bring a lot of heat to that because we're each other's co-hosts. So it's kind of like you ban Laura Eisenhower, you have another host, but it's still Laura Eisenhower. So I'm going to try. We're going to try to get past the censorship. If not, the only way you can find anything anymore is on Rumble, man. That's where they don't censor stuff. They don't take stuff down. We tell all of our guests, don't worry about saying code words. Say whatever you want. We are the Rebel Collective. We're the rebels. We're tired of being deplatformed, muzzled. It's time to speak, man. We're not going to be these slaves where they constantly threaten to kill us behind the scenes. If they kill me, fine, man. You know how many times I freaking died? Whatever. Life is temporary, man. It's a blink of an eye. It's a single grain of sand in an ocean of cosmos and consciousness, man. Like, who cares? That's why I would love to die for anybody, man. Like, I've always been given shit because I've told people I would die for an animal. You know how many times where I was almost killed and hit by a car or almost impaled by something trying to save an animal? But it would have been worth it to me, man. Like, I don't know, man. Saving a life is a worthwhile life to me, man. Like, I never seen myself getting to old age and just dying of old age. Like, to a soldier, that's freaking hell. Take him out of combat, that's hell.
Yeah, man, like the Klingon thing, like you want to die in battle. I want to be
Did you
useful,
know?
I want to die in battle.
Did you know the Klingon? They are literally the Draco.
Yeah, I
It's,
know that. I
they were
mean, I
personified
guessed
as the
it,
literal Draco.
it's always just been a guess to me. But yeah, they're come on, obviously, yeah.
Did you have a Draco on your ship?
And for
Quite
not
often.
often,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think so. But they don't like interacting with us as like people very much, and they don't like being. They resented their job. I think like they didn't want to be on the ship. Um, yeah, I to be honest with you, it's hard for me to just go into memories when people ask me about them. Sometimes better than other times, but I like alter out. If, like if I really answer the question, like a lot of times I'll actually go into an alter. But I'm sensing that yeah, there's a Draco on the ship that I served on as well. That's something that I have kind of blocked out a lot. Like I know I've interacted with reptilians, but when I try to sit in my mind and think of what one looks like and like think of an interaction with one, like it's hard for me to do. And I don't know for the reason for that. The only thing that I remember is seeing Marduk, and Marduk was an alligator person, but I'm finding out that that's probably because he was shapeshifting and he probably wasn't actually an alligator person. But I don't know, man. Like I a lot of the reason why I do this show and talk to so many people is because there's a lot of holes in my memory and I still have so many questions, like a lot of more questions than answers sometimes.
Have you ever seen the Dracos wearing what they call the wristwatch, like is depicted on the Anunnaki? Have you ever seen them wearing one?
Not that I can remember. I'm not saying I haven't, but I can't go into that and say yes or no.
What we need to do is arrange where we meet up at an event or something, man, and I start figuring this stuff out and put you under, and do it in a way where it's not going to activate Omega. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I did do some sort of like, it wasn't QHHT, but I just did like kind of like some hypnosis one time, and it was pretty wild. Um, it was just someone trying to help me go through some memories, and I kind of went under, and I saw a lot of things, and it worked, but I haven't actually done the QHHT. But after that happened, though, I will say though, my memories were clearer, and memories were coming back for a little bit after I did that. Like it for a while, it was like the veil was thinner, and I don't know what it is. Like certain times, like it's just weird stuff I can't control when the alters come out. But some days, like I'll be like altered out like most of the day. Like I remember one time I'm like hanging out in the living room with my parents, and I was just like, hey, I'm they told them that I was Marshall Howard. I was this totally different person. I told them that I'm from Centurion, and I was like asking them questions. I was like, so how much do they let you travel around here? I was like asking my parents. I was like how far are you allowed to travel? And they're like, oh, we can go wherever we want. I'm like, so if you wanted to like go to another country, you could. And they're like, yeah, technically we have to get a passport, but I'm like, they let you do that? Like, and I was just like, wow, like I have to stay in my district. Like I had this whole conversation with them, and I was like, I was there, but I wasn't there. It's like it's alters are weird, man. It's a confusing and crazy thing. And I'll tell my girlfriend stuff all the time. Like she'll be like, "Yeah, do you remember?" She'll say something about like, "Yeah, we hung out with JFK at the pool." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You were the one who told me that." I'm like, "I told you what?" She's like, "Yeah, you were telling me that like we knew JFK when we were CIA agents in the 50s or whatever, like, and we knew, yeah, like we knew JFK, like you told, and like you said we were at the pool with them or something like that." I'm like, I don't remember telling her that. So like that's what's weird with the memories and everything else is they're supposed to be compartmentalized and stuck in these other alters. And when I'm remembering things, it's like there's like bleed through. You know what I mean? And it's like Penny talks about it too.
Hard
Like,
to piece it all together because like you only have pieces of stuff and you don't know if they connect to certain memories because there's no congruent timeline of that experience.
yeah, like here's another one. Okay, recent. I don't know like where I was, don't know what planet I was, don't know if it was in the future, don't know if it was in the past. I'm guessing it wasn't during the current timeline now because of how the people were dressed and stuff. But I just remember being at this restaurant and I'm a little boy and I'm with this older woman who she's taken to me whoever the fuck I'm gonna be taken to. And I don't know who this woman is. I remember that. And we're at this restaurant and you know it's time to order the food and I'm looking at a menu and the boy next to me is just like this, looking up. And I'm just like, why is what's going on? What is he gonna eat or like what's going on? What is he zoning out for? She's like, oh, he's got the Google Pixel. He's looking at the menu in his like in his mind, like with augmented reality. I'm like, oh, and that's like all I remember. And I remember another thing too, and it's like, yeah, like there's certain memories I have where it's like, where was I? Like, who was I with? Like, I couldn't tell you. It's like, and that's the way they're trying to keep it. And I almost feel like they didn't slow, like I thought going public would slow them down, but I almost feel like it sped them up. They're like, oh, we really need to do
That's what
what?
happened. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, like they need to dilute my memories as much as possible and make me have so much shit where it's like I can't even possibly figure out where it's from. Because they don't, it's like you said with your channel, they do not want us coming on here and talking about classified information that people can go and like look into them like for themselves and figure out it's true. Like they don't want that. That's another reason why there's alternate reality swap programs. Like, and I don't know if you have any recall of this or like know anything about it, but I know for a fact because I deal with a lot of different alternate realities. I remember that there's certain people that say there aren't alternate realities. I can tell you that that's not true. There are, and I
That's
know.
because you're doing time ops. It's required. Like I'm doing time ops. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's
Yeah,
so
and
many realities. You don't know what is real.
yeah, it's crazy. And one of the things that they'll do is they'll do swaps. So like they'll take a version of you from one reality and take a version of you from another reality, and this the same program or a similar program in different realities will trade you, and then they'll put you back in your reality, so that way when you come back, you're not talking about anything that happened in this reality. So therefore, you can go on the internet and you can talk all day. They don't give a fuck. Like, they do that. And I don't know that many other people who are talking about this. Like, I talk about it. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I haven't heard anybody else talk about it.
You call it a bubble swap, right?
Yeah, bubble swap.
So this happened to me when I physically talked to Peter that first time. The reason he was freaking out is because he said, I'm not from this timeline. And the moment he told me that, I said, I know.
Yeah,
Everything
me
here
too.
is different. I do not recognize this timeline. All the Mandela effects, all the changes. I don't recognize this place. This is not where I'm from, man. All the little changes, it's crazy. It's like I am in a foreign universe. I don't know how I got here, but Peter said he gave me this option. He said, if I could arrange it and we can send you back to your timeline, would you do it? And I thought about it for a thousandth of a second. That's how fast I process information. It's like the ability I have is almost like Doctor Strange. When Ileana remote viewed me, she says, I operate like Doctor Strange. The way I can access time and portals and stuff. When I saw Doctor Strange, man, for the first time in my life, other than Wolverine, I connected to that guy in a way I never knew. And then all this remote viewing I'm seeing, they're calling me a quantum wizard. So Peter said, if I can arrange it, would you want to go back? And I literally I literally responded fast. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to, because unless I got all my memories back from that original timeline, I figured out why I'm here. What is the purpose of it? He told me I got lost on an op and he never saw me again. So when he saw me in this timeline, he was freaking out, man. And when Jessica remembered it, she told me that one of those ops was another op that I'm caught in time. I'm caught in this loop. And she remembers that very, very explicitly. She says it was a life when I was a gladiator. I was in the Coliseum competing. I've always been a soldier. I've always been a soldier. You know what? I've been more than soldiers, a lot higher rank than soldiers, but I've always been somewhat of a soldier. And she told me that I'm in the Coliseum. I'm on a chariot. She even described the chariot in extreme detail. And when she did, it felt like I was going back in time. And when I went to Rome, I went to the Coliseum. And when I saw it, I walked in. I knew I've been there before. And that's why I knew I had to go. And I'm probably one of the only people. I have proof. You can look on my Facebook. I have pieces of Rome. I have pieces of the Colosseum. Person like us, we're soldiers. If you want to get into a place, nothing's going to stop you. What I did, I walked in, I seen the tour groups, I seen all the timing, I looked for cameras. I jumped in the pit. The pit's not accessible. If you've been to the Colosseum, you're allowed to look from the outside, and it's all open on the inside. That's where they kept all the slaves, all the warriors, all the animals, all that shit. There was a lot of pedophilia going on too, man. With a lot of that stuff, they had a whole harem of kids, and that's not even talked about, man. Like the disgusting shit that they did. So I took a piece of the Colosseum. Then I went to Palatine Hill, directly next to the Colosseum. That's where Rome was founded by Romulus and I think it was Romulus and Remus. Founded it on a swampland. They built Rome on a swamp, just like Disneyland. Like the whole Disneyland connection, man. It was Werner von Braun was one of the best friends with Disney, and it was the CIA that bought all the swampland for Walt Disney, and they built a deep underground military base there in that swampland first. Then they built Disneyland directly above it. Imagine the implications of that.
Oh, I already
Think
know.
about it. They operate as almost before DeSantis wrote that law that took away their protections of self-governance. Before that, it's almost as if they were a city-state like the Vatican or London City or Washington, D.C., its own sovereign country that's outside the jurisdiction of the United States. Washington, D.C. is its own country. That's why all U.S. citizens are technically not U.S. citizens. They make you think that you are, but we're technically not. The only true citizens are located within the District of Columbia, its own country. What was I talking about right before that? I talk about a lot of stuff, man, so sometimes I forget.
Jessica remembered your last mission was being a gladiator.
Okay, so I went to activate some power and I got caught in time. I'm literally in a time loop right now. Part of my consciousness is caught in that timeline, in that time loop, and it will not reintegrate and rehome back to me. It's stuck. I'm living this loop.
I've heard of these before. It's kind of a mind fuck. Can you explain that a little bit more?
It's all fogginess. It's like when I say I never truly wake up, it's just like I don't recognize the planet. Like it's so different from where I'm from. And Peter said that I'm from more of that future Tokyo cyberpunk kind of stuff that I relate to. The whole where I'm from, it's more transhumanism, and I am completely against transhumanism and the integration of mechanics and machinery into humans with AI. But you know what it does, man? It makes you freaking superhuman, and you get augmentations that make you like a freaking god, man. And can you imagine having nanite injections? Because Peter says I have a ton of femtotech in me, and you can use that for like self-replication. You get damaged in the field, those nanites start rebuilding your flesh immediately. It's crazy the kind of tech they have that's classified. Like I was watching the series Altered Carbon again. Great series. I'm on season 1. I've watched all the series. There's only 2 seasons. I made a connection for the first time. Everybody knows it's Monarch. Everybody knows it's the super soldier program, and they're showing you how clones work and all that stuff. But for the first time, I saw the Nazi symbolism in different shows and how they was using the German programs in these shows. And to side note that, one of my favorite female DJs is Canadian, and her name is Rez. Dubstep stuff. All of her albums, it shows programming, hypnosis, monarch symbols, right? And during the interrogation of the main character, they put him in a digital torture program. And for a second, I saw it for the first time. Right when the program started, it said Rezzing, Rezzing. And at that moment, I was like, holy shit. Rez told everybody on all the albums through symbolism that that was going on. And I've identified these people to be in Monarch. Rez is definitely in Monarch. If you look at her albums, it's psychedelic. It's all hypnosis, spirals, and it's all programming. If you look at all the albums, it's crazy, man. And I literally see that. That's what they call it. So Rez more than likely named herself Rez because she might have went through those digital torture programs. So when you're rezzing, you're going into VR. So that was really interesting to see that for the first time because, wow, there's a lot of stuff you miss in this stuff, man. And when you see it again, holy crap. Kind of like when I was watching Elysium. I saw the Nazi symbol embedded. I think the main company was called Armadyne, which was one of the military contractors that Kruger was using. And it's a half swastika projected in a 3D form where it obfuscates the Nazi symbol. And I was just like, holy shit. They're showing you Kruger. They're showing you it was created by Gabriel Kruger. They're showing you it was started by the Nazis. They're showing you Kruger assets. And they even named the main character Kruger. Call Kruger, activate Kruger. It's crazy, man. So when I see this stuff, I'm like, wow, they're showing you more than we've ever been shown in our entire life. They're showing you all the truth through all the Disney series, through all the Marvel universe. I believe a lot of it's not sci-fi. I believe the word sci-fi means fact. Everything's inverted. So they say everything that's fiction is in fact truth.
Mm-hmm.
So like the whole Star Wars universe, the Star Trek universe, like just getting to the Star Wars stuff. They're showing you Nachtwaffen in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing you Swartzasana. You know how many times throughout the Marvel series, the Disney series, where I've taken screenshots of the Black Sun Swartzasana symbol? in all of it, all the way going back to Star Wars 1 through 3, the original ones in the 70s and 80s. The Black Sun stuff is everywhere. Darth Vader is part of the Sith, which is part of the Sforza Sana. Whenever you're forced to take on the AI, when you're in Nachtwaffen, I'm sorry, Kruger, Nachtwaffen, Penny says you got AI in both Nachtwaffen and Kruger. And she was more of a Borg, you know, kind of stuff. But like, wow, to see all this come to the forefront, and it just blows me away now. And it's just like, I feel that we've hit this precipice where everybody's ready to see these things, and they're prepping the public, especially the kids. They're showing them what MK Ultra is through Stranger Things, and they're educating us because something is happening. I believe some of that's controlled release by the Alliance. They're now authorized to show you these programs in bits and pieces, but they left out all the rape in the Stranger Thing program. Like Papa, oh yeah, Papa was raping the shit out of Elle and everyone else. That is required. And then you bring your candy directly after you rape her, bring your teddy bears and show her love, and then you rape her again. Over and over. It's jacked what they get away with, man. It needs to be all uncovered and shut down.
That's why we're here.
That's do you ever have anyone reach out to you, Drago, in terms of saying, hey, we're with people in these programs and we want to reform, rehabilitate, shine the light of day on them? Do you ever get anything like that?
All the time. Yeah, and the people in these programs, a lot of them, they're not the easiest to talk to, man. Like almost everybody in the programs, they have their idiosyncrasies. And I don't meet really normal ones. There's always something weird about each and every one of them. Always. It's like a characteristic trait that you can identify. Past identifying them with possible schizophrenia, and they're making all this up by just reading forums and watching videos and all that stuff, right? But Arkeem, you were talking about earlier about how you don't know how to piece together what's real and what's not. What I've learned to do in my memories is kind of like when I do actually dream and I do astral travel, I was told the reason why I'm not allowed to sleep is because I do most of my work in the astral. So they're limiting that. But that doesn't mean they're not taking my consciousness when I'm awake.
Yeah, I apparently do a lot of work in the astral too. Apparently, I'm doing a lot of work in the astral. Like people keep on telling me, "Yeah, you're in my dreams, and you're showing me shit in my dreams." And like Penny Bradley has this neighbor that like she's talking about the Phoenix. Someone calls himself the Phoenix coming in her dreams and like showing her all this crazy stuff. And then she showed her a picture of me, and her neighbor like freaked out and said I was the person. And like last time I checked, hadn't talked to Penny since. Like something weird's going on with that. And I think, yeah, the astral realm is more important than there's something going on there with that. Like it's not just fairy dust and smoke in the wind. Like there's something substantial there,
That's our most truest form in the astral. This form we're in now is a holographic projection. We are not solid. Nothing we see is solid. The 3 rooms we're sitting in don't even exist. Like everything in the background, it's an illusion. It's basically particles holding hands saying, I'm going to be Brian's swords on his peg wall. I'm going to be Brian's writing on his white wall. It's basically Brian. All of that is Brian. Everything in your room is you. You created all of it. When you leave your house no longer exists. It only recreates itself the moment you turn and you look at your house. Therefore, it is now created. So when we're in the astral, yes, that's where we do our work because that's where our light body is. That's our truest existence. That's why we can fly. That's why everything's thought responsive. If you ever go lucid in a dream, it's thought responsive. What I'm trained to do is most people want to go to fantasy land. They want to go to orgies and all kinds of really depraved kind of scenarios once they wake up after they fly. I know to automatically meditate, sit down in the astral, meditate, activate all my bodies and just expand it out. I don't go to fantasy land. I connect to it as deeply as I can. That's where we truly are. We're basically just light, pretending that we're solid. We are all God. All of us. We are all a spark of God, of source. And everything is God. The stop sign's God. The negative air here is God. The fan spinning right now on your laptop is God. part of your creation. So it's really interesting how all these mechanisms work in this holographic kind of reality.
It's fascinating. Well, I think we're approaching like the 2 hour mark.
If you guys want to go longer, I'm down. It's up to you. If you got more stuff to talk about, man, I'm down.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you got? What do you got? What do you, do you have anything to add, Brian? Or
Well, I guess maybe we could start to wrap it up and maybe leave off on the current status of the disclosure movement. You said it's going to get pretty wild this year, Drago. Do you foresee, by hook or by crook, from the ground up or the top down, exposure and disclosure in the coming years? Or are you more of a decades guy or a never? Where are you? Where do you stand on that? What do you foresee?
Again, every group is compartmentalized with information, so everybody makes claims that don't actually line up, because a lot of people don't understand there are numerous timelines that are converging right now. If I am not from this timeline, that means my timeline is now merged with your timeline. So we're all being thrown together. Every time you try to make changes with looking glass and all this stuff, the timeline always pops back to alpha, no matter what. You can create all these little trunks and all these roots that go everywhere else. It's always going to come back because, again, it's conscious. It was never supposed to be changed. We all made agreements as souls to do this. Now, I heard there's some big fireworks happening in 2025, 2026. And a lot of people's astrology charts, for some reason, people are starting to notice major shit on their chart is all happening in 2026. That's weird because, like your Vedic star chart, it shows you all the years you went through trauma, when you went through your awakening. It shows everything in detail, the year it happened, everything. It's freaking insane. But the common denominator is 2026. With QHHT, we all talk about the event. There's something happening, a merging of worlds, a bifurcation of worlds out of the 3D. They talk about in the law of one. We have our 3D world and we're going to 5D. If you've prepared to go there, if not, you're going to stay on the 3D world. You're going to go through the apocalypse, the Armageddon, whatever you've chosen, whatever death you've chosen in scenario, it's going to happen. So with these timelines, most all the timelines that they ever talked about will happen. A meteor strike will wipe people out. A flood will wipe people out. War is going to wipe people out. And everything is subjective depending on what timeline you're experiencing, because the person next to you is not experiencing the same timeline. You're only agreeing to say and think we're in this timeline. So let's say theoretically, us three are walking down the street in Tampa. We're going to see completely set of different beings. We're going to see different buildings, different cars. I'll walk right across a homeless person. That homeless person will not exist in your reality because that's an internal projection of a mirror of my program. So once you understand that everything is holographic in nature, you can literally hack the matrix.
So then you mentioned Mandela effects, Drago. Do you recall Mandela dying in like the 80s, or did he die in the later 2000s? Was it?
In my timeline, he got out of prison and became president of Africa.
Through my timeline, he died and never was president. And then all of a sudden, I wake up around 2012 and there's a movie about him, how he was president of South Africa and helped inspire the
Isn't that weird that there was a movie made about it of something that never happened?
Not in my timeline, but I guess in this timeline it did. So
it's kind of like Star Wars. Like, remember where he says, Luke, I am your father?
Mhm.
In this timeline, he never said it.
I am your
He
father.
says, no, I am your father. I went down the rabbit hole. I started buying old VHS tapes, all original editions. I looked at my original DVDs of the Star Wars. All of it's been changed as if there's an update where they can hit a computer stroke and say, now it's no, I'm your father. So I'm in this weird timeline of idiocracy where everybody's dumber Everybody has the fluoride stare. Everybody only cares about material and beauty, and they don't want to go inside. You try to wake people up and they'll strangle you. You know, I've never seen so much cognitive dissonance in my life. You try to educate people and they call you a conspiracy theorist. And to today's standards, no matter what you present evidence wise, they'll just say, oh, where'd you get it from? That's a parody website. That website's been debunked. That shit was proven wrong with Facebook fact checking. So it's just like we're surrounded by so much information that no one knows what to believe anymore. So I'm not going to say I believe something's going to happen. This is the timeline, because I can't. No one knows what will happen with Alpha. All the future projections we did with all the time ops we did, we fucked up the time stream so much that I believe no one knows what's going to happen.
Yes. Thank you. Nobody knows. It's kind of beautiful and scary at the same time, right? But
I signed up for some fireworks, and whatever's coming, it's going to be freaking big, man. And it will be in our lifetime.
I personally think that we're on a positive timeline, and I mean, I find it hard to imagine that things are going worse. Like I find it hard to imagine that things are just gonna blow up and explode, and I don't know, man. I see things getting better. Do I know? No. I really like that though. See, that's a problem in our community. You know, I learned that a long time ago from David Wilcock. Like I've been following him since I've been a youngin', you know what I mean? And
Me too.
that guy was always making predictions, always telling you when stuff was gonna happen. It's like, and
His insiders, you
yeah,
know.
and it's the thing that sucks about that for him is he's an extremely intelligent guy who has a lot of really interesting things to say that are pertinent, but he kind of shot himself in the foot with a lot of that. You know what I mean? It's like, well, people don't want to listen to you if you keep on making predictions that don't come true and stuff like that. So, there's something to think about. But yeah, you know, if I personally, I always talk about, I don't know what's going to happen, but I've seen timelines where, there's a lawsuit against the MK Ultra programs, and it's done hand in hand with Native American tribes actually. Um it's kind of like they're two different things, and then they realize that they're connected, and then they decide to do it together and work together and do the lawsuit together. And then what I've seen happen is basically there's tribunals. They got to figure all these things out. Like, because, you know, like for me, like I committed crimes against humanity. Like I went back in time and like killed like hundreds of thousands of people. Like I'm guilty of genocide. But who's really guilty of genocide? Me or the person who told me to do that? Like that's the kind of shit, the kind of questions that they're gonna ask, and it's gonna be like a obviously extremely high profile case. The news is gonna be all over it. And I remember this happening in other timelines, and eventually what it turns into is building DID, like alter integration clinics with Native American tribes, and with the help of ET as well. And yeah, and just like a lot of healing of the ley lines, and healing, and there being ET groups that come to live here and help us and stuff like that, even though it's like a job for them. Like they maybe not fun, happy, good time to come here and help us, but they come to serve. So that's just other timelines I've seen. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but that's what I'm trying to manifest. Is these DID alter integration treatments opening up and healing, and if that doesn't happen, well, that's too bad. But I've seen that in other timelines. I do remember other timelines, and I do remember seeing that. And from what I see, like with the way things are going, that's what I expect to happen. To be honest with you. Am I claiming that I know for sure? No, but I'm just saying that's what I'm expecting and bracing myself for, and that's what I'm like trying to like make happen with like everything I do, like with this channel and talking to people and everything else. You know, I really do want to do that, because me personally, I know what I am and what I'm capable of and everything else. And you know, Drago, like you're like split up all over the place. Your consciousness is in a million different places at once. And you don't want that anymore, and I don't want that anymore. And that's where the alter integration comes in. It's because it's going to be a process. It's not going to be easy to get yourself back into one piece again. but we're all gonna do it, and we're all gonna help each other. So that's what I see happening. And yeah.
That sounds like a really good ending to me, man. Like, they get taken down, all this gets outed, people realize the truth and extent of it all, and then people will truly understand that the war between Lemuria and Atlantis never ended. Because the Atlanteans, they were the Anunnaki. The Atlanteans was called Tola. That was the name of Atlantis. Think about that. Nazis used that. Enki ran it with Thoth, who was known as Ningishita at the time. Well, Thoth in Atlantis, but all the Polynesians, all the American Indians, they're the Lemurians. Then you have the Anunnaki bloodline, the English, the Illuminati, come in to finish killing all the Lemurians of the original battle that happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. And it's never ended. Think about this. Most of those type of countries have been militarized by the United States. Hawaii is one of them. We took over it by military force. We stole their land. Hawaiians do not think much about Americans. They hate us. They see us as an occupying force. And I didn't know that till I started traveling the countries. I've seen 18 countries. And for the first time, it woke me up when I saw other people's perspective of how they see Americans. Because they programmed us all. They make us think we're like these world saviors. We go to these bad countries, we install democracy. Name one country, just one between the two of you, who's ever survived the United States coming in to install democracy. I just ask you to name one country, that's it. Name one. So we're the world's police force, but the Nazis entitled us to that. That was part of MJ-12. Alan Dulles set that up. He literally told us we would become the world's police force, which was ran by the Nazis, Operation Paperclip. Wikipedia says we brought over 1,600 paperclip people. That's a lie. We brought closer to 50,000. Think about when we brought these main people, we brought a lot of their families over as well. So if you have 1,600 figureheads, multiply that with family members and other classified stuff other than the public 1,600. Now they run everything. It was the unconditional surrender they did when they presented the Eisenhower, I think it was 1952, with the Washington flyover. That was directly after we lost Operation High Jump. Courtney Brown remote viewed that too. Dracos came, Nazis came, they came out of the water, they came out of a mothership from the sky, took out Admiral Byrd's everything. Admiral Byrd was a high-ranking Freemason. He was a 33rd degree Freemason. Most people don't know that. So you had a bloodline guy, part of the family, being sent to investigate why the Germans were in Antarctica. And that started the whole space race eventually. The Germans went to the moon first. And it was Russia and the United States fighting to see who would get to the moon first, because we needed to design a satellite, which Russia made Sputnik. And they saw that the Germans actually literally have a base on the moon. And me and Jay Weidner were talking about in our last episode, he presented as evidence of the Apollo 11 cover-up about how I'm mind farting. What's Stanley Kubrick, about how he basically filmed the Apollo moon landing while they also went to the moon and filmed other stuff. But the evidence I saw, he more than proved that the entire backgrounds were digital, and there were girders and structures behind it. And there's a guy named Richard C. Hoagland. He was presenting all this evidence and said there's all these crystal buildings on Mars. And that was his evidence. It looks like this transparent glass. He never realized that if you actually look at these photos and you put them through software programs and you adjust the contrast, you can see the entire background is fake. It's freaking fake. And you can see the structures of the beams that hold up almost what the green screen would be, which is room, I think it's 113, where they filmed it. That doesn't mean we didn't go to the moon, but it looks like they did a Freemason ceremony with Stanley Kubrick where Buzz Aldrin wore He took off his wedding ring. He put on his Freemason ring and his Freemason apron. And this is why Lance Armstrong filmed the first Freemasons to step onto the moon. Remember when the shuttle was leaving? You see it leaving the moon? Who was filming it at that time? Did they did they leave an astronaut there being like, oh, can you get that last shot? And hey, it even pans up. Someone's using, it's not mechanical. They didn't have mechanical cameras back then for that. So think about that. It's really interesting.
And they lost the originals, tapes. They can't find them. The most important
Ken Johnston, the NASA astronaut, Ken Johnston has them. He presented them at Contact in the Desert. He has the original videos and negatives. He was the one that was ordered to destroy and burn the negatives. He faced life in prison. He saved the negatives. He shows them at all the shows. All the proof, the buildings on the backside of the moon, the craft. It's insane. He showed all the airbrushing that they were doing, and now we have AI detection software. All those NASA photos, they're all being uncovered that they were all airbrushed. Kind of like when you go on Google Maps. I like, Brian, you like to show certain locations and they're blurred and stuff like that, right? Same thing. For everything that they're covering up, all of our technology is slowly, their own technology is going against them. Because remember, 200 years ago, we didn't even really have electricity. The Rothschilds did. The Egyptians even had electricity. The Atlanteans, the Anunnaki, that's what the pyramid was for. It was for electricity. They powered all of Egypt around there with electricity. If you go 40 to 60 feet under the sand through LiDAR and muon detection, they found out that the Giza Plateau is massive, bigger than you can imagine. I'm talking about tens of 20s of 30s and 50s of miles spread out in a circle of advanced civilization under this freaking sand. And they even found out that the sand in Giza is not native to Giza. They said it was brought in to cover all this stuff up. And that's why the Egyptian authorities will not allow that sand to be removed. That's why almost all these monuments, they're in a state of 1% of recovery, meaning 99% of what's there, they won't let us see because they've already seen it on LiDAR and muon. They've seen all the secret caverns and the Great Pyramid. Through all that, we found all these discoveries, but it's like it's hard to hide it at this point. You know what I'm saying? Because people have private satellites. If I ever won the lottery, I would have private satellites and I would be mapping the planet with LiDAR and muon detection. And I would be showing the planet all these ancient civilizations. And this is why I want to have a tour company. I want to travel the world. I want to meet the right people, the right scientists. And we run these programs. We run this data. And then we show it to the world. Because most people are not doing that. It's more controlled, meaning they might go to 1 or 2 locations. They'll show you the data. But no one's doing it as a full-time disclosure model. We need to discover a model where we can have all these major people around the world create a hub that can't be taken down, that is hosted on a private server, that cannot have a direct denial of service attack, that's protected. Remember when Anonymous were the good guys? And then it turns out a lot of these Anonymous guys end up being bad guys. It sucks. I think we need to have that return of Anonymous, the real legit ones, the real V for Vendetta Anonymous, that just remember the 5th of November. Like, this is the time, this is the moment. You have to weaponize to wake the planet up, because if this is your time and you die and this was your moment and you fucking failed, you're pathetic. You have to do what you came here to do, regardless if they kill you or not. I don't give a shit if they kill me. I don't. Kill me. If that's what I have to do, if I'm going to be speaking and you're going to kill me over it, whatever, I'll be the martyr. I don't fear it. I don't fear it no more. I used to have a lot of fear. Most of my life was fear. If you're in the programs, you fear people finding you. I disappeared for 15 years on social media. I haven't posted a single photo of myself in over 15 years, and it took Laura Eisenhower to bring me out of that basement, come forward, get back on videos, and start showing photos of myself. I completely walked away from everything. I sold everything in 2015, everything I ever knew. I had successful businesses. I had a good amount of money, traveled the world, had every race car I ever wanted, hand built, spent $100,000 building a car, not buying a $100,000 car, having a car and spending $100,000 on it. But I got lost in the material part of it. I lost my soul. I stopped appreciating art. I stopped appreciating tattoos. All I wanted was spend money and skydive and scuba dive with sharks and go to Great Barrier Reef and this and this. And it never ends, man. You get down that rabbit hole of material, you'll lose your fucking soul. So I took a vow of poverty. I drive a piece of crap car. I even have fancy cars. They've been in storage since I moved to Florida in 2015. Haven't driven them one time. None of my fancy stuff. I just drive my POS. I just don't care anymore. I don't attach to it anymore because it controlled me in every way possible. Money, it can be extremely evil and you'll lose your soul, but I learned my lesson. Now I know I can appreciate money. I'm not going to blow it left and right. I'm not going to spend $100,000 on a car that I think I'm going to die with because it's ultimately just a toy. And it's meaningless. It means nothing. It's a holographic idea of my mind externalized into the physical. It's stupid. It's nothing. True love is beings acknowledging life, acknowledging wind as living consciousness, seeing the blades of grass and realize their consciousness. You can talk to them. That's true life. My every day is waking up, going outside to my lake, feeding the fish, feeding the sandhill cranes, and just being still and listening. That's where I get all my information, all my downloads, because I'm not distracting myself in the material anymore.
That's beautiful, man. This has been such an amazing interview with you. Like, I know we had the rough idea of just like Anunnaki Marvel, but that was just like 1/10 of what we talked about. And it's enlightening, man. It's great. You're definitely gonna be one of the repeat guests we're gonna have. We're gonna have to have on our show multiple times. Because yeah, you're a trove of knowledge and information, and we really appreciate you sharing it with us. We really do. And I'm sure the viewers watching this will say the same thing in the comments.
I appreciate that, man. I really work hard, man. I research 7 days a week. I write my book 7 days a week. I'm actually writing multiple books simultaneously the last 3.5 years. That's when I lined up my book publisher. Did this event called UFO Con or something in Orlando. And one of the book publishers there was only two tables away. And she heard me talk the entire weekend. And I would bring crowds of people, and I'm just a vendor there. And I wasn't selling anything. I paid for a $500 table. All I did was talk to people and tell them about QHHT. I didn't sell anything. And she saw that the power I had and the way I speak and the way I connect with people individually, one-on-one. I can talk to a group of 50 people and connect with every single one of them. You put me on stage, I want to walk through the crowd. I don't want to be blocked by all the lights where I cannot see my audience. I want to look people in the eyes. I want to have the ability to walk through that crowd, acknowledge people that I know, tell stories, and be physical with people. Make a lot of these presenters, man, they just Johnny Enoch, that guy has power. A lot of these presenters need to learn from Johnny. Use his blueprint. That's power. That's who I am. That's what I want to show people. That's what I'm here to do.
I think that's what we're all here to do, and we're all learning from each other. You know, and that's what this is all about. I hope you don't mind. I don't mean to cut you off, but we have been talking for a minute. Do you mind if we wrap things up here?
Yeah, man. You can have me on whenever, man. You know, I'm down to have awesome, freaking mind-blowing conversations about cool subjects. Like, it's awesome to be able to talk and get interviewed versus like me interviewing people all the time. So it's a nice
Yeah,
refreshing.
absolutely, man. You got a lot of stuff to say. So yeah, is there anything else that either you or Brian want to kind of mention or bring up before we wrap this thing up?
Everybody can find me at fractaloflight.com. That's my QHHT website. If you ever want to have your life changed, read my website. It's very thorough. Read what QHHT is and what QHHT isn't. This technique will literally change your life. It'll help you with everything, man. Other than that, you could find me on Facebook, Drago Reid, DRAGO REID. Other than that, follow me on rumble.com, The Rebel Collective, and my new show will be dropping January 15th. First guest Laura Eisenhower. It's called Portal to Another Dimension.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop recording now.